Excuse me. I just chugged the coffee and now I got the hot coffee burp.
That's okay. That happens. So
Okay.
start off in the space whiskey. No.
Cool.
Ready, Freddie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we start,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask a ton of questions.
Okay.
I might add some as we go.
Okay.
But when I ask a question, like, what's your favorite podcast? And then you say, my favorite podcast is. Because we don't want to hear my voice. I'm off mic. I'm not talking on screen.
Should I say what my favorite podcast is? Is that what you want me to do?
That's just a, sample
Just an
question.
Right.
example.
Well, I'm just saying, but like if you ask it, should I say my favorite podcast is, and not
So,
just
like,
go that, right?
Yeah, or like, so instead of saying that, like, because if you say, This Week in Geek is, blah, 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 but then we have no context.
Sure.
So,
I got you.
yeah.
Incorporate your question into my
Yeah.
answer. Yes, I got you. Okay.
So, we're going to start off with the easy one.
Okay.
I have introduce yourself, your podcast that you work on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give a background on them or at all?
Okay.
You're on like a ton of them.
Yes.
So
It's going to be hard, but yes.
yeah,
Okay.
but so you can just name them off. That's what Molly did.
Okay.
And then the big thing is I'd like to hear about, like, obviously Blue Box Cafe has been like a huge part of the podcast.
Sure. You don't want that as part of the introduction, or do you want it as
Yeah,
part of
so
something
say,
else?
like, I'm the owner of Blue Box Cafe,
Okay.
and they come here for how it started and that. So you don't have to get too deep in it. You can just give a brief intro,
Okay.
and there's editing. So if you want to
Sure.
start, or if you want to say something again, we can always do that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, you tell me how you think that goes. So cool.
Cool.
Okay. Ready to go? All right. My name is Chris Mao. I am the co-owner of Blue Box Cafe here in Elgin, Illinois. I'm also a podcaster on the Southgate Media Group network. I host a ton of shows. This Week in Geek, Disturbed, which is our American horror story podcast. Real Idiots, Pop Culture Countdown. There's a whole ton. I guest on whatever show that I need to be, and I'm just kind of available. I got involved with Southgate Media Group kind of by accident. They were here in Elgin, going to the doctor, and they stopped in, and this is right when they started out. And Rob's like, "Hey, I do podcasting." I'm like, "What's that?" I mean, I had heard of it and like heard Kevin Smith and a little bit of Mark Maron. I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And so they came in and they started doing it, and they actually got involved with the Elgin Fringe Festival, doing something for the Family Fringe, and we became friends after that. And then as time went on, we got the idea of doing live podcasting here at the Blue Box, and so that's how we started live at the Blue Box, which was a weekly podcast show that we did here live every Saturday night at the Blue Box Cafe. And then when we started doing that, the typical like, hey, how would somebody get involved in podcasting? And Rob gets that all the time. It's kind of funny, and he's like, well, why don't you sit in on a few shows? And right away we had a really good connection. We're similar age, similar kind of taste, similar kind of stuff like that. So it started off just doing This Week in Geek, and then we did Disturbed, and we came up with these other shows trying to get content for this live at the Blue Box, and that's how we got involved on all these other shows. So it's kind of neat. We've been really good friends for 3 years now. We do a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously Southgate Media Group is Rob, Martha, and Molly's kind of thing, but I think we play a pretty big role because obviously we've done a lot with them here live, and we do a lot of sponsorship for them, and I think we give them a good base for geekdom to come and see them. So it's kind of neat, and it's really kind of cool. And it's been an awesome thing, and I think mine and my wife's life, it's been good for Blue Box. Excuse me, but it's also, I think it's been good for Southgate Media Group, and what they've done among things, among being great people and doing great things. But I think it's been really good. It's been good for both of us. I think that's a good benefit. I think it needs to benefit both sides in any kind of arrangement you have like that. It doesn't do any good if it's one-sided, one way or the other. And I think that's been something that's happened for both of us. So.
Yeah. So you just said how you got into podcasting.
Yes.
Let's skip that one.
Sure.
So.
I mean, do you want me to expound on that? I guess we can talk about stuff.
So, okay, how did you get involved?
Okay, so I got involved in podcasting. I mean, it was out of curiosity. I had always kind of wondered, and I was really intimidated by it, thinking like, you need all this equipment, you need to do all this stuff, you need to have like this really big plan, and it was, and I hate to say a very professional thing because I think it's a skill just like anything else, just like cooking, just like filming, just like videography, just like whatever you do, there's a skill set involved. And so, when Rob had started coming here, I kind of inquired about doing it, and I think there's, just trying to figure out, and Rob really helped me how to do it. And I've always been kind of the ham. I was a performer when I was younger, in plays and singing and doing stuff like that. And it's something I stopped. I was really into athletics, I played football in college and did some stuff, and I kind of put that part to the side, even though I was always a geek and doing, I played Dungeons and Dragons and did all that stuff. And I never really did this. So then when the opportunity came, and I think it's just, I think the big thing about, to expound on it, about like the podcasting is just having passion, and just wanting to share that kind of stuff. And I think that's something that I've always liked to do. I mean, I from being in this business, you always kind of have to entertain people, and it's always not show business, but it's an act. I always think it's like, hey, you have to be on stage, and this was a natural progression for that. And it was just kind of cool, and it started out really small, just being, a guest on This Week in Geek for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden it became, doing This Week, like, we were talking about earlier, I hate to say it, but This Week in Geek, doing all these other shows and picking them up as you go, and talking about things, and I think we've got a pretty good following in what we do, and people like, the people that do hear us like it, and it's just a neat thing, and it's a great way to express, I think, some of that geekdom that I don't have that natural outlet to talk about. So, and it's good to do it with your friends. I think that's a great thing, so.
So,
excuse me.
one thing you touched on is how it gave you like an outlet to kind of go to that you don't get to talk about, like whether it be your geekdom or what.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are talking about how podcasting gives them a voice or gives them an audience, or whether it be someone across the country that has something, like finally has someone that understands and is talking about the 6th episode of the anime from Japan. But as far as that goes, how would you describe the impact that podcasting has, whether it be for the podcaster or the listener?
Well, I think it's a couple of different things. I think as a podcaster, I mean, people that would not have any idea how to have the voice, I'm just talking about in general, not me specifically, but whoever wouldn't have an ability to share that kind of stuff with people because they don't know how, it's a great way for them to get involved, and it can be done inexpensively and quickly. I mean, the theory I have about that is that all it takes is a microphone and a computer, and and if you want to use it, a camera, but really, literally, it's like a microphone, a way to record it, and a way to get it online. And then you can share whatever it is, and it could be as professional or as buttoned up or as scripted as you want, or it could be just you talking for 20 minutes and say, hey, this is me, Chris, with my thoughts on the Cubs or whatever that is. And then you post it and put it out there, and you can share that with things. I think as a listener, people want to identify with people that are passionate about the things that they're passionate about. So like if you're passionate, I'm going to use the Cubs example again, the Cubs, and then you pick up somehow, some way through social media that, hey, there's this guy, Chris, that's talking about the Cubs, that gets you involved in that, and that forms that connection between you. I mean, we as Americans, I think, are really, or Western civilization, are really celebrity driven, like, oh, celebrities like this, blah, blah, blah. And and I'm not doing it like that for me. That's not the reason I do it, but I think there is some form of celebrity where people say, oh, you're the guy that does that. I've had people go up, you're Chris from Blue Box. I'm like, I just do it because I love it. I love doing what I do, and the podcasting part is just the extension of it. But I think that gives people that connection to somebody that has those same feelings and may or may not have the same views. Maybe you just want to argue with them, or maybe you really love what they have to say, and then it can form that dialogue, and then that could transfer to that person. And we've seen that happen a lot. We have a lot of people that have said, hey, I've listened to your show, now I want to do podcasting, or whatever that is, and that's kind of neat. So I think it goes both ways. Some people do this for the glory. Some people do it just for the outlet. Some people are just passionate. I'm not in it to be famous. I'm not in it to make money. I'm in it because I like what I like to do, and I think I have something. I hate to say something to share, but I think I've got a pretty unique view, and I think that it works really well. And I think, especially like when Rob and Alil, or Rob and Martha and I, we do our thing, I think that's something special that people like and draw to. So I think it's kind of neat. So.
Well, you're saying how, you guys have people that come up to you and I like your show, how do I do this? And that was kind of how you got involved with it. You went to Rob and said, I would like to do this, and he brought you on his show to guest. one of the guys we interviewed before, you might know, is James Wilder.
Yes.
And he said that you guys were at a convention. He
Yes.
was there as a book writer, or an author, and you guys are like, oh, you should come, like, read on our podcast, come out to our coffee
Yes.
shop. And so he said, like, from his point of view, it just, he wasn't familiar with podcasting world or anything.
Sure.
Like, you guys gave him the avenue to do that. And, like, whether, the unique thing I see about Southgate Media Group is whether you have the ability to record on your own or you have something you want to share, but you don't have the ability or knowledge to do it, that you guys, Rob, and
Sure.
everybody gives them that, where, like, James doesn't have, the opportunity to record.
Right.
So he comes out here and then Rob records and releases it.
Sure. Well, I think there's a couple things. Like, first, I think the story about meeting James is cool. This is literally, we had just started hanging out and doing live at the Blue Box. It's only been a couple months. We went down to Indie Comic Con down in Indianapolis, and it was a Lil and I and a bunch of people. We had a few panels we were on. It was really neat, and I love doing the panels. We can talk about that later if you want. So we're walking, and of course it's kind of a two thing. Like, when we go, I want to go meet the artists and hang out and see those people and see what people are selling and what they're doing and all that stuff. But then we also I have a work thing that I have to do for Blue Box. I'm looking for merchandise to sell. And then I'm also doing the podcasting because we always are looking to interview people and meet people with cool stories and do that. I mean, it's good for content, but it also builds these relationships. We're literally walking, I see a guy dressed as a doctor, dressed as David Tennant. And he's like, I wrote a book that does a poem for every single Doctor Who story up through the 50th anniversary. I'm like, get out of here. So then I pull Rob over and we start talking to James and meet him. Nice guy, really, really talented. I really, really dig his stuff. And it just kind of happened where we invited him to come up, and later on that year, we had a birthday party here for a little boy who had been bullied and stuff like that. And he was a big Doctor Who fan. So we got all these Doctor Who people, Time Crash. We got James come up, some other people come and cosplay, got a TARDIS out there, had this big, huge birthday bash for this young boy. And I think it really helped the spirits, but it was just fun to do and give back. And that's how we got the relationship with James. And then, we started doing the thing, and then we got to the point where we actually sponsor a show with him. Rob and I are producers, whatever that means, of, Tales by the Blue Light, and, we help out, and I help out with the show and stuff, and it's really, really good. So we got into that. But yeah, I think, I think that some of that recognition is kind of like, I want to say the recognition of people being able to do it. I think people want to do this stuff but don't know how and don't know the questions to ask. And so one thing that Rob was really good is how he helped me was getting to the getting the door into it. Now, what you do with it once you get in is your own business, because there's people that have great ideas, but just like anything, if you don't work at it, you're not going to succeed. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this podcast, not market it, not do it, not research it, not be passionate about it. You're not going to go anywhere. But there are people that do some unbelievable work in the media group, and I know there's one guy that just did a whole bunch of stuff, and he broke off to form his own media group, from Southgate, and it's really kind of neat. I know Rob is really proud of some of that stuff that happened, but there's all sorts of levels of that. But what Rob and Martha had always told me from the beginning is they just want to help people be able to get that stuff out there. Now, some people might do one show a month, some people might do one show a year, some people might do 10 shows a day, but that's really kind of cool. And I think it's awesome that there's a place where people can get into this, because it's now more than ever, it's becoming much more trendy. It's much more popular, but still, how do you break into it? The difference between 3 years ago and now is huge in the number of people that are podcasting, but I don't know if there's any much better podcasts. It's just that there's more. So you have to kind of, I hate to say sift through that, but you have to do that. But there's a lot of really interesting people out there that have interesting things to say, and a lot of talented people. And I think it can go both ways. I mean, there's a lot of talented people that use the podcasting to further their careers. Artists, actresses, people that write, people that, pardon me, I'm sorry. There's a lot of people that kind of can do that stuff. But then there's also the little person that just has something to say. It could be a housewife doing something, the Martha and Teresa Sammons did Pinterest. Pinheads, which was a Pinterest one. I mean, that's kind of cool that there's people out there that can explain what that is. Because there's a lot of people like look at it and say, oh, Pinterest, how can I use it? And then you get a few tips on what's better, and that's awesome. So there's a lot of things that are a lot of benefits, especially for what those guys do. So Excuse me.
Okay, so
Sorry,
No, you're
I move around a lot. I apologize.
so we talked about that you guys started doing the live at the Blue Box,
Mm-hmm.
and then at some point you get into podcast marathons. So
Yes.
would you be able to, like, if you had to define or explain to someone off the street what the podcast marathon
Sure.
was, and then give us a background of how it got from live at the Blue Box to podcast marathon?
Sure. So the podcast marathon thing came about. Rob, and I could be wrong about the specific details, but there was a boy that was nearby that had some health issues, and we were looking for a way to help him, try and help raise some money and do some things. And so what we did, or what Rob did, is like, let's have a podcast marathon where we can help raise some money for this boy. And so he's like, could we do it? Could we do it at the Blue Box? And then we kind of tied it in, and Rob had this gimmick. It's like, well, we're going to do the longest podcast marathon. We tried to do a Guinness Book of World Records. Little did we know that somebody else was doing something at the same time that was going to be longer, but it wasn't one. It was remote. There were some things, but that's what we did. So we tied it in with that. The thing. Oops, excuse me a second. So we tied in the the world record in with raising money for this boy, which was really kind of cool. And so we just did it. We scheduled some people to come out. We knew a bunch of people locally. People from the network came in, and we did it for I think it was 13 hours. It was like an 8 to 9 kind of thing. It was overwhelming. It was really hard, but it was a lot of fun. It was kind of like the way it did today, but the first one, people didn't show. People were like 2 hours late. So Rob and I ended up doing literally like half of the marathon ourselves, which was fine because later on it went, by the time everybody got here and got worked out, it went really smoothly and things went really well. It was neat. And then after we did that, Rob looked at me, he goes, we're never doing this again. I am so tired. So then fast forward like another 3 months, he's like, we're doing it again. I'm like, huh? He's like, we're going to do it again. I'm like, okay. And so, we've done it. And then, obviously this is the third year after he said we're never doing it again. And now we're going to do a fourth year, God willing, next year. But it's just kind of neat. And it's evolved. And obviously, just like anything, and you guys know with doing film fest and stuff like that, the first year's a little sketchy. People aren't sure. You do it the second year, you get a little bit more buy-in. Third year, you get more buy-in. By the time you get to 5, 6, 7 years, it becomes a thing. And hopefully we can get to that point. I mean, we were just talking about that outside before I came in here to do the interview. What are we going to do next year to make it better? We're already thinking about that, which is good because it's you understand, these things. It's not just like you show up a week before and say, oh, let's do this. There's a lot of work, so which is kind of cool. So I'm excited about it. I really, I love doing this kind of thing. I love, I'm a restaurant owner. I form things and I make these plans and I hope that they work out, and I think it's really cool that we can make this go. So I think it's a good partnership because we can work together. Now Rob does 90% of the work or 95% of the work, but there's that the other little stuff to get the venue ready and do all that stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, so the marathon, I've been asking a lot of people, like, okay, what's the impact? Like, what's the benefit of this podcast or this marathon to people in the industry or that?
Sure.
And I've gotten a lot of great answers, whether it be networking that. So you started with the podcast marathon being a benefit for this boy, this sick boy. And then what I've heard is that people are saying that by continuing the podcast marathon, a lot of them not knowing the history of the first podcast, it's become so much more of a service to the community and
I think so,
giving
sure.
them like a network to do. So as far as what your kind of, not necessarily mission, but what people are getting out of it, what is that in your opinion?
Well, I think what people get out of the marathon, it's I think it's some different things. I mean, obviously it all evolves and it becomes different. The more people are involved in things like that, just like anything over time. I think it's a good outlet for a lot of these people that never do it live. I've never had a problem speaking in front of people. I may not be great at it, but I've spoken in front of 10,000 people before. So I love the live aspect of it. I'm not afraid of it, but a lot of these people don't do anything other than sit in their home offices and talk into a microphone and do that. So I think that gives them the strength and the ability to say, hey, I can talk in front of 20 or 30 or 40, 50 people or do whatever, or they never videotape it, even though YouTube and Facebook Live and all that stuff is there. I think there's just a lot of benefit from that, from Southgate Media Group. I mean, from a business standpoint, it gives our people and our friends a chance to get together and kind of do some bonding, even though for us, it's more like business. It's like we have to get to the next show. We have to get to the next segment. We have to get to that. We're like the producers of the TV show, but it gives those other people a chance to meet other podcasters and kind of share some battle stories and things like that. And I just think it's good. And I think from entertainment, it's a good reward for our regular podcast, Live at the Blue Box listeners or other listeners to come out and do it. And from Blue Box's standpoint, there's all these different hats. It's great for us. I mean, it's good for business. Is it why I do it? No. We're going to have a decent day anyway on Sunday or Saturday. It's a little bit more, but it's not, it's not like, oh, I'm making a fortune off of it. And it actually ends up, hurting some of our regular business, and that's fine. We've had people that come in that are looking for a place to sit, and there's no place to sit. So that makes it rough, but it's like, I think it's a win-win-win. Like, I always say mentioned earlier, but I think it's a win for our podcasters. It's a win for our guests. It's a win for Southgate, and it's a win for us that we can do this stuff. And, in like what Rob did in his opening ceremonies today at the show is talking about, independent podcasting is alive and well and can be vibrant. And this is a good vehicle for them. And I hope we can expand it. We've had, we had a couple people that have been involved in the first two that weren't able to make it this year, and they're like award-winning podcasters, and it's fantastic. And we'd love to have them back in the future. Obviously it'd be good, I hate to say for ratings and for listenership, but it'd also be great to see them and have them do that kind of stuff. So it's neat.
So as far as like podcasting goes, what do you feel the biggest challenge is in podcasting?
Well, I think the biggest challenge in podcasting, I think, is just like anything else, is staying motivated over a long period of time. Anybody can be motivated for a few weeks or a few months or maybe even a year, but how do you keep that going? It's like a fandom. It's like whatever. I mean, are people going to be passionate about what you're passionate about for a long time? But, can you keep the passion in your podcast? Will people keep the passion in listening to what you have to say? Just like anything else I say in the entertainment industry, because I think that's what this, it's a form of entertainment, but I think that's the hardest thing. I mean, how many TV shows are great the first year or two, and after that they're horrible? How many, I think that's the big thing. And I love the fact about what we're doing is we're very, very diverse, and we cover a lot of things. And, if you talk to Robert, and probably when you talk to Martha, they've done shows that they've stopped. They've picked up other shows that other people like lost steam on, but now you have the steam on it. Rob and I took over Disturbed a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. We took over in the middle of Hotel, and we've been doing it. We love it. It's fantastic. Luckily, I hate to say it's only a few weeks a year, but it's only like, the 12 episodes, and then we can move on to something else. But it's really kind of neat that you can keep that going, and that's what's great about this is that, you do that. And I think that's the biggest hurdle. The perceived hurdles, like how do I get the content out there? Is it perfect? Whatever. I mean, that's all just practice and time. I'm a firm believer that record something and get out there and then evaluate it and make it work. I don't think it needs to be perfect, because I don't think people are looking for this finely tuned, well edited and, all this drop music and, all these sound effects. I think they just want to hear people talk about what they're passionate about. I'd much rather hear that than, all the bells and whistles, although the bells and whistles are cute sometimes. I think that shows some production value, but without it being a good story, it doesn't matter, or being a good show. But I think that's, that's where that goes.
In your opinion, what is the future of podcasting?
Well, the future of podcasting, I think, in my opinion, this is what worries me. And, and I hate to go back to, if we're talking about what Rob talked about in the opening ceremonies, where it becomes too commercial and everybody thinks it's just about being a celebrity and having a podcast where they just talk. I think, if podcasting can stay to its like beginning roots, these indie roots where it's just people doing their thing, I think that's awesome. The problem is people see dollar signs. People see, hey, there's all these ones that do all these that make this tons of money. I don't think that's a realistic viewpoint. I mean, I think the benefits that I get are far outweigh what I put into it, and I don't get anything. I mean, you get a little bit of different access to like at a Wizard World Comic Con, but it's not that much. I mean, as like we go as press, it just means we get in for free or for cheap. We don't get like access with the stars or do anything like that, but they might talk to us a little bit more. You know what I mean? You get to see some different things and maybe get into events that you might not be able to get into otherwise, but that's pretty much about it. And every once in a while, you'll get somebody from the show that you get to talk to and interview and do that kind of stuff, but that's about all. But it's kind of neat if you're passionate about that to kind of get that inner kind of view. But, I think, but as a podcaster, I think if we can keep it to the roots and not expect it to be like this big cash cow, because that's not realistic. I mean, there's for every guy and, like every YouTube channel, for every PewDiePie, there's like 20,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 people that post stuff that never gets that kind of return back. So if you do it for the right reasons, you might succeed. If you do it to succeed, you're never going to, because that's just not the way that it works. So I think if we can keep it at that grassroots level, I think it'll be good. But I think it's hard to predict. Excuse me.
So, kind of, I know you've touched on this in different ways, but someone that's just wanting to start podcasting or is just getting started,
Sure.
What would you tell them?
Okay, well, I think if you're just starting podcasting, the biggest thing is just do it. A lot of people are microphone shy or camera shy. Just record some stuff. What I tell people is you need an able way to record it, you need an able way to edit it, and you need a way to get it online. Getting it online is a little bit harder, and there's plenty of information out there on YouTube and on plenty of blogs and things like that to how to do that. But it's basically just coming up with something and then seeing what it is. So let's say you're passionate, you pick a subject, whatever that subject is, computers, Marvel Comics, a movie or whatever, and do like a little short review, do like a 15-minute review on a movie, record it, and then you can put it out there or post it or talk to people like Rob and find out that somebody that will do that for you. And then, go from there and evaluate it. Just like anything else, you need to practice. You don't become a great writer the first novel that you write or the first short story that you write. You have to craft that. You don't become a great chef by cooking your first steak or your first side dish. It takes time and takes practice. And so you do it and give it a shot. And then if you want to do more of it, you have to commit. I think, give it a chance, because it's going to be rough in the beginning, just like anything else. So if you're going to do a show, and Rob will tell you the same thing, and this is what he tells people, give me 12 shows. Give me 12 weeks of effort and see if you like it, and then we can evaluate it from there and go. I mean, it's simple. It's not complicated. You need a microphone. Like I said, record it. You can record it on a handheld thing. If you don't, you don't have to spend much money. Get a headset with a thing and record it at your house, and then just, come up with a little plan. You don't need fancy music. You don't need that. You can get free music online that's, that has no copyright, that you can, free public domain stuff that you can use, put it in the beginning, put it at the end, and post it. Say, hey, my name is Joe Smith. I'm talking about Blade Runner 2049. This is what I thought. This is what I thought was awesome. Spend 15 minutes and do it. And then you can evaluate where you want to go from there. And then, and if you need advice, there's plenty of people that will give it to you. Rob will give it to you. Other podcasters will help you. I think that's what's good about the community, is there are a lot of people that are just willing to help you for nothing. So I think you can go from there, and I think that's cool. But it's just do it. It literally is just do it. And it's just like working out or doing a diet. It's like everybody waits for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. The perfect time is now. Just do it. Just record something. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. You'll get your rhythm, you'll get your speed, you'll get your cadence, you'll get the way you want to do things, and then you evaluate it. If nobody's listening, then you maybe need to change it. Or if a lot of people are listening, you do more of the same, and that's all you can do. It's never going to be, things have changed with us. So we do things way differently now than we did 3 years ago. I mean, even in Disturbed this year, we changed the way we do the show. It's really cool, and that's just the way it goes. That's just art. So.
Okay. This is pretty much my last
Okay.
question. So I find Molly freaking adorable
Yes.
and inspiring. So you've known Molly, whether it be just from her podcast here, participating in podcasts with you.
Sure.
And then today you even hosted her with her
Right.
for What's Molly
Sorry.
Cooking.
Uh-huh.
So as far as she's only 10 years old and
Mm-hmm.
she's already, developed so much and is like conquering things that people
Sure.
wish they could. Like, what's your take on Molly and where she's going and what
I
she's
hate
doing?
no.
Molly's such a jerk.
Molly Southgate is she's special in a lot of different ways. She's talented, she's nice, she's well grounded, she's and I'm gonna make this joke despite her parents and her because her parents are wonderful. But I mean she's like the total package of it. I mean she's mature for her age. She's interesting. She's smart. She's interested. I mean, she's not just what's a great way to say this with being kind of politically correct. She's not spoiled and expects everything to come to her. She will ask the questions and will go out and do it. And she respects other people. It's not just about her. She's giving and she's caring. I mean, they volunteer at school and she helps kids that are like her age or a little bit younger get better at things. And she's just that kind of a soul, that good of a person, that she is so giving of herself. But her parents are the same way. They are very giving of their time and energy and efforts. And I think that's rubbed off on her. And then she's very talented. She's a really good actress. She's she's smart and can put together a sentence, which is amazing for a 10-year-old. And then she can do it in public, and not being afraid. And that's the performer part in her. And she's, not to put pressure on her or whatever, but I would expect great things from her. And just being, because they do. I mean, everybody that meets her, I think, feels the same way. Whether it be the people that she's acted with, or people that she goes to school with, or the people that she's interacted with on things. So we'll go to conventions, and Molly will go up and talk to these stars, and all they'll want to do is talk to her. Like Robert Englund. I don't know if Rob or Mark talked about this. We were at a Wizard World, and Robert Englund is sitting there, and we're like, oh my God, that's Freddy Krueger. We're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And we're like, what? We're like, Rob and I are totally fanboying him, and he's like, well, hi, little girl, what's up? And we kind of do the whole thing with her and talking to him, and all he wanted to do was talk to her about this children's book he wrote. And we're like, could we have a minute? He's like, yeah, after I'm done with her, which of course never happened. And that's okay, but she's just that adorable. But she's got, she's like that, but she's not precocious. She's really well grounded, and just, she just takes it all in stride. She's like, oh, it's okay. And that's cool. And that is going to afford her a lot of opportunity, I think, in the future, that she can do with what she wants with it. And if she doesn't use it for any kind of acting or anything, and just makes her a good person, that's awesome. But she's fantastic. She's fantastic to be around. And you forget that she's 10. She's not a 10-year-old. And, she's 10 going on 40. She really is. And she's, just that, I think, impactful of a soul. You know what I mean? She's a definitely old soul in a young body, which is really neat. So,
I think too, she gives like a voice to younger kids. Like,
sure.
They see Molly doing it. She's 10 years old, and they think, well, I can do it. Where podcast, you think of a podcast, and you think of adults or
Sure.
college age or up doing it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I think did people talk about being inspired and all that stuff? I mean, she is, when somebody tells me they can't do something, I'm like, here's, and I don't want to say little girl, but here's this young lady who has no problem doing it. And she conquered those fears of whatever they are, or whatever reason you may or may not want to do it. And she succeeded. I don't think you can determine success, but I think you can determine the effort that you put in to try to succeed. There's times that you put everything into it and do what you're supposed to and do everything the right way, and it doesn't work. That's okay. I think it's more about the journey than the result, than where you go. I think it's about all of that stuff. I think that's really important. And I think she can inspire, just by the way she is, she can inspire younger kids, but inspire older people to be like, hey, there's this person who does this. She's only 10, and she can do it, and she does it really well. And she does it without any gimmicks or tricks, or isn't like this, cute baby goo-gooing on YouTube and saying, oh, I've got 1 million views. She's the real deal. She really is. She's a very talented person. And I've been around a lot of talented people in my life, whether it be, actors or celebrities or athletes or musicians or whatever that stuff, whatever that is, she's got it in spades. She's, again, who knows what's going to happen with it? You never know. She could lose the fire. She could lose whatever, but she's got that thing. And I'm glad that she's able to express it, and that Rob and Martha have given her the platform and the ability to do that without, I don't want to say not getting in her way, but with giving her the freedom to explore that. Because without it, they're just, they're not the stage mom and dads like, you're going to do this, you're going to act, you can't have any sugar because you're not going to get this part. They help her, they promote her, they push her from what I've seen, push her in a good way. Like, hey, if you want to do this, put forth your effort. I know I've talked to Rob about some of the roles that she's had and what she needs to do, but she's always wants to do well. She wants to succeed, and I think that's awesome. So.
I love it. Can you talk about
one more? No, just one more.
Can you
Sorry.
talk about Martha and Rob, like them as like podcasting side, just them as people, and like how they, whether it be like as friends or them as just them alone.
Sure, absolutely. Well, okay. So Rob and Martha, we met. It's been great. It's been a great friendship since we met. They're just caring and giving people that are not, they're not just stuck in the normal American rut, like where I'm going to go. Sorry, I'm going to go and I have to have my 9-to-5 job and do that stuff. They're doing things a little bit differently, which is awesome. And they have the ability to do it, and they're living their life and doing the things that they want to do, which a lot of people don't. If you can't live your dream, then what's the point of having them? And so, Southgate Media Group is a function of that, but they're just, they're great, kind, and caring people. And I hate to say not just saying it because you're asking, but that's what, I truly feel. They are just, they're just really, really nice and really, really giving and caring, and they give their time to help other people, and they do all that kind of stuff. And I think they do it right. And I think the way they raise Molly is a great testament to the people that they are, giving her the freedom to do what she wants to do, but also be, her parent. I know there's all these blurred lines and things like that, or, are you your children's friend or their parent? I think it's very evident that they are doing their thing with her. They're letting her explore her life, but they're also her parents. They're doing what they need to do to raise her and to teach her how to protect herself and do all that kind of stuff. And I think that's cool. And they're just, they're just really nice. I always call Martha as like the big den mother. She wants everybody to be happy and all that stuff. And Rob is the dreaming kind of guy. And he and I talk about all the stuff and all the time. And I just think it's really kind of neat that they're able to do that. I don't want to say I would aspire to live like that, but I think it's just really kind of cool that they can do that kind of thing. I've taken a little bit of a different path, but we're both entrepreneurs. We're both, we have a lot of things in common. We have similar taste, which I don't know if that's good or bad for him. But we kind of are in the same kind of direction, and it's really just kind of neat from that point of view, to meet a guy who's kind of a kindred spirit and to do that kind of stuff. So, but they're neat people, and you can tell by the people that they're friends with and they hang around with and do that they're good people. They're not, hang around with, you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes you meet a person and you see their friends and the way they treat people, and something's not right, even though you might be liking them or attracted to them or whatever. They're not like that. They hang out with really nice people. Their friends are really cool. They're just good people. So.
So I'm done with my question.
Okay.
I have one more thing I want you to do.
Sure.
But before I do that, is there anything else you'd like to cover, talk about, anything?
No, I think it's good. I think it's the one thing I want to just like add is I think I've been very lucky to have met, these guys and be able to be a part of it, and it'd be a good collaboration. I think we, again, like I said this earlier, it's 90% or 95% or 99% Rob, but I'm glad to be able to contribute in what little way that I can to make it success. Now he'll probably say, "Oh, I do all the work and I just kind of do this." It's a great relationship, and it's a great partnership that we have in some of those things. I think we push each other at the right level. And I think that's a really good collaboration. And we talk about that stuff with other people and with kind of things. I think we kind of emulate that. So, and I'm just really thankful that we're able to do this kind of podcast marathon thing and be part of it and do that kind of thing. Whether people understand it or not, to me, it's a really important event in my life. I look forward to it. I think it's pretty cool. So, I think it's, I want to thank them for that opportunity. It's just neat. It's just neat to be part of. So.
So the last thing is, this is going to be a camera.
Okay.
Just again, introduce yourself like you did in the beginning, but introduce yourself. You can promote, like, how do people contact you basically?
Okay.
So
do the whole thing.
Yeah, so your name, if they want, you give the information for Blue Box Cafe and
Okay.
where they can find or go to, see more about that.
Okay.
And then if you want to plug again your podcasts, I know you have like a ton of them that you talk about.
Sure.
So instead of like plugging each individual one, you could
Right.
do that, or Molly just sent everybody to Southgate.
Okay.
So it's up to you.
Sounds great.
So this is going to be straight to Tony.
Okay. Great. My name is Chris Mao. I am co-owner of Blue Box Cafe in Elgin, Illinois. I am also a podcaster on the Southgate Media Group Network. I'm co-host of several shows, but if you want to find out more information about that, you go to southgatemediagroup.com. You can find out personal information from me at theblueboxcafe.com or Blue Box Cafe or Blue Box Cafe 176 on social media.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank
Don't
you.
hit your head on